Oh yes, I remember what's in here now. So for this one right here, here's what I'm thinking. I'm gonna show it to you just that much. Welcome back, Troglodytes, to your daily dose of guitar information, the Trogly's Guitar Show. Hey, I teased you guys with this and that unboxing episode. Let's go ahead and crack this thing open. So, as the final guitar out of that collection, I told them I would be reviewing this thing because it is an absolutely gorgeous, beautiful guitar that I missed out on last time. This is an Angus Young SG, the 68 style with the vibrola. What makes this model incredibly cool is the fact that we have an Angus vibrola unit on here. It actually says that. And the last one I had was a little bit too beat up in condition. So when this one came, it's like, okay, we gotta take some time to review and demo this. Because you don't see these things too often. Because these were birthed in a very interesting period of time for Gibson. A lot of the signature guitars at this point had something special on the headstock. So here we have Angus's little schoolboy outfit devil guy going on. However, we should probably take some time to learn about all the different Angus Young signature SGs, or at least some of them. Alright, so let's start with the first Gibson Angus Young signature. It's actually the one we're talking about today. It was first introduced in July of 2000, and was produced all the way until 2009, so this was a rather long-running series of guitars that looked like these. Now, they changed a little bit as the production went on. The initial street price was around $1,850 when they were first introduced for the first 5 years, and then they bumped up to $2,100, and for their last years of production, they were about $2,300. So they featured the Devil Child on the headstock, and the Angus vibrola with his signature pickup set. The earlier ones had special cases with the Devil Child on it, just like the one we're looking at today. The later ones didn't get the case shroud, but the case was about the same. During the production time of that, there was a limited edition run of only 7 units. I didn't even know this one existed until I was doing some research here. It's a Back in Black 25th anniversary model. This guitar is very similar to the main production run, except for everything's pretty well been blacked out. It still has the long vibrola, it still has the Devil Child on the headstock, this time in white instead of yellow, but on the pickguard there was a fancy 25 Back in Black marking on it, but there are no inlays on the fretboard that appears to be made out of ebony. So after the first model was discontinued, they decided to go custom shop this time, with a limited run of 200 VOS and 50 age signed units. It's pretty much a one-for-one replication, well, as best as Gibson could do it anyway, of Angus's famous SG that he modified to have the giant Thunderbolt inlays on it. It's a pretty sweet ride. They even got the headstock looking pretty correct. You don't see these things show up on the market too often. However, you actually saw artist proofs and prototypes as early as 2007 on these. But after those were done, we went back to the USA. The next style comes around in 2010. These are the Thunderstruck SGs. They were produced all the way until 2013 and were around $2,400 brand new. This time, instead of being a 68 Batwing style SG like he's well known for using, it's a 61 style SG, and it's got the really cool lightning bolt inlays. These were available in both black and red variations. As far as the pickups go, they're the same as the first run. So here we are nearly a decade later. I think we're really overdue to have some more Angus Young signature SGs if he's willing to do them with Gibson. Being under new ownership, I'm sure it's only a matter of time. Suppose we should take a second to take a look at the case too, because it is a little bit special in its own right. So the outside just reads Gibson USA. It's a standard early 2000s Gibson case. It's got the combo lock on it. It's got 1, 2, 3 latches on the front. You got your bumpers, and the interior, it's black, but it's almost like a dark bluish green at the same time. Definitely closer to the black family, but not pure black. This is still in the era where they had this little wedge right here to keep the headstock secure, but we also have this case shroud, if you noticed that earlier, that also has the Devil Child right there. Pretty much a basic early 2000s Gibson case, except for the design on the case shroud. But we can see this one has a little bit of original paperwork to it. Gibson USA pre-pack checklist. You can see the stuff right there. Second one, apparently, with the warranty information and info on the combo lock. And here's what your compartment looks like on the inside. And these were made by TKL up in Canada. So as far as this one goes, as far as your special specs, I mean, at the time that this thing was produced, having a vibrola unit on one of these guys was actually pretty special. However, having a 68 style SG, not necessarily all that fancy. Nowadays, you can't quite exactly buy something like this. You can get the 61 style one, but it's an artist signature version one. So to learn a little bit more about this particular variation, let's go ahead, throw it on the workbench to take an individual look at its parts and specs. An hour and a half of cleaning later, this thing almost looks brand new. Probably better than brand new, but it does still have some wear and tear. So, here's what our cavity routes look like. We'll look at those first before we get into what makes this guitar such an anomaly. It looks like AC in there, maybe aged cherry, something like that. Even though they don't typically have C for cherry, maybe it was different in the early 2000s. But then it reads SGAY for Angus Young SG. Pretty straightforward right there. Here we can see our neck tenon, it extends right into there. However, here's where this one gets interesting. So, when I first saw this, I was like, uh-oh, something's been replaced here. One says Gibson USA, the other is a patent applied for decal. Has something been swapped? No. This must be a factory error, in my opinion, because the 57 Classic is supposed to be in the neck position, and then this guy is the Angus Young signature pickup, and that's supposed to be in the bridge. So I'm betting this was a factory mess up. They installed the pickups in the wrong position. That's not so far out of the realm of reality. I'll even show you in the control cavity later. All that looks stock to me. But anyways, those pickups are mounted onto the pickguard. They just look like that. They've got the nickel covers over them. And after taking some time to polish them, they're looking fantastic. They're just like mirrors. So I'm getting that 57 Classic in the bridge as 7.51, and then our Angus Young pickup's supposed to be pretty hot, 8.43. So a little hotter than the 57 Classic. It's supposed to be the other way though. If you're looking at yours determining originality, you're more than likely going to have this swapped. This is just a freak of an example. It is quite nice how the pickguard has slightly aged though. It's got a slight yellow hue to the white parts. Compare it right here to pure white. You can kind of see what I'm talking about. And sure, this pickguard does have some scratches. It was used, but it's definitely one of the better conditioned ones of these to show up in a while. These used to be pretty plentiful on the market, but then they got scarce and values went crazy. But here's what's nice about these versus like a modern day one of these. They are a true ABR1 bridge, meaning the ABR1 post goes directly into the top. It does not have any stud within the body. The stock ABR1 is a wired variety, so your saddles don't fall out, and it reads Gibson ABR1. And the thumb wheels look like this. But now let's check out the vibrola unit. So the way that it secures to the body is you've got 2 larger screws right here and then 4 small ones. You can see there's actually a chip out of the top right there from the factory. Thanks guys, at least it's covered over, right? And then if you're curious what this is, that grounds off the trem system. So that wire is actually smashed down into the top. That way it makes a good secure contact. With this bad boy, you can see the screw holes and how they line up and all that. But you might be saying, hey, where's our decorative plate? That simply secures to the edge of it using 4 screws, 2 on each side. See the other one right there, and then one right there. The plate itself, I also cleaned it up, super shiny like a mirror. You can see me, hello. But it reads Angus, and then if you didn't notice it earlier, it actually has lightning bolts behind the lyre harp things. That's just a really cool element that they did here for him. As far as how this thing works, you string it up by putting the ball end of the strings right there, and then you simply bend the metal like that. Generally, not the best for tuning stability, but as they age and wear in, you've got better chances of it staying in tune. They sure do look cool though, right? So now let's check out our controls here. Nothing too fancy, just 2 volumes, 2 tones. Full disclosure, this topper fell off, so I just put a piece of double-sided tape right there for now because I don't have any super glue. But thankfully, that was still in the case. But you've got your output jack on the front right here, and a 3-way toggle switch. But after polishing this old gal up, I mean, there's some scratches and light nicks and dings, but honestly, it is in pretty good shape. It's so shiny now, it's hard to keep it in focus, but you've got a couple of dings right here in this area. Kind of a larger one right there. That'll be all covered over, you won't see it. I believe you can see that one, but that's caused by the vibrola, so we'll put that back on. That's another one caused by the vibrola arm. And you got just, you know, some honest wear on this one. Now that I've got it put back together, man. I now realize what made these dings. It wasn't the vibrola unit. It was a careless tech who was taking this guitar apart, probably to verify it. And when they were loosening these screws, they must have had a larger screwdriver than I did that dinged the top in both locations, because that lines up perfectly. Now, I'm the first guy who would own up if that was me, but it was not me. So that's unfortunate that the 2 biggest dings on this whole guitar could have been completely avoided. I also noticed there is a very small, chip I don't know, some sort of an impression or something. Not too bad in the grand scheme of things. But it is a mahogany body, and there's something about the 90s and early 2000s era of SG standards. The mahogany bodies just feel different. Like, they're a little bit more dense, they've got some good weight to them, and they have a certain look to them as well. I mean, modern day SGs, they're nice too, but the types of mahogany that they use yet today is just a little bit different. I'm not going to say one's better than the other, because these typically tend to be a bit heavier, which is sometimes a good thing on an SG if it's neck divey to have a heavier body. But anyways, it's a mahogany body, a mahogany neck with a rosewood fretboard. And I went to town on this thing. I used the metal polish to make the frets absolutely perfect. I deep cleaned and conditioned the fretboard, and that thing just came to life. I love the streakiness that this one's got going on. I see next to no fret wear, like maybe a little bit right here, but nothing that you're going to have to address for a long time. So as far as specs go, we have acrylic trapezoid inlays, but early 2000s are great because they have a lot of figuring within them, even if they are acrylic material. But 22 medium jumbo style frets, typical 12-inch radius, 24 3/4-inch scale length, nothing fancy with that. And we have what they call the Angus Young neck profile. So the nut width is a little bit skinnier than most Gibsons, 1.65 inches, but it fattens up to 2.07 by the 12th. First fret neck depth, 0.81, and by the 12th, 0.87. Here's what that neck profile looks like at the first fret and the 12th fret. Nice rounded C-shaped neck here, but you can see how it's definitely a little slimmer than most. I've been reading online that these were advertised as a custom Angus Young neck profile, the slimmest SG neck that's ever been put on a guitar. I don't necessarily agree with that. Like, it's a slim neck, don't get me wrong, but there's definitely slimmer 61 style ones out there. This has a nice semi-what roundedness at the same time as being thin. I'm just glad it doesn't have that 61 SG feel to it. Those are almost like D-shaped necks with how wide they feel. This one's just a little bit skinnier. I mean, it's still got that slim neck profile phenomenon going on, but it has a bit of a roundedness to it. As far as SG necks go, I actually really like this. But now we can look at our head stack here. So Gibson Mother of Pearl logo and our Devil Child silkscreen right there. Now, most of those scratches and whatnot came off of the face of the headstock, however, you still have the polishing swirls and whatnot. So it looks way better than it did when it got to me, but upon closer inspection, yeah, you can still see some scratches. But our truss rod is looking perfect on this one, and our truss rod cover has a nice yellowed agedness to it as well. Now we move on to the backside. Now this looks to me to be a one-piece body, but don't quote me on that because sometimes Gibson USA can be really good at hiding seam lines, and this thing is now way too reflective for me to even try to show you guys. There are a couple of small impressions down here by like where your strap is, and a white dot or two that I wasn't able to get off. Then looks like maybe a cable or something was in the strap. I mean, that's all very surface level stuff. You could probably buff most of that out as far as the small blemishes. But now let's take a look at our control cavity. So we've got all the correct Gibson pots. We have the correct writing on them that you would find. I mean, you can look at other photos of these online. Just type in Gibson Angus Young SG and you can find the writing on it. So it's 8/20 of 2001 and then whatever that is. These are our pickups. They don't look like they've ever been disturbed, or it was a super ultra fantastic job that you can't even tell, but I'm willing to bet that was a factory mess up. It's kind of cool though. It makes this, you know, semi-what collectible in that aspect, but at the same time it's just the same pickup swapped. It's not that big of a deal. But anyways, moving on from our mahogany body, we can see that mahogany neck back here. Nice tight wood grain on this too. You got a couple of small impressions right here from being lightly played. Nothing that really stands out as an ultra eyesore, but I mean, if you're looking for perfect, don't go for this one. But if you're looking for close enough, I think you'd be happy. Like, I would be happy with this one in my collection. The only thing that kind of upsets me is the dings on the top. But our serial number on this one dates it to 2001, 245th day of the year, 402nd in production. That's not for this model. That's just that particular day they stamped that many necks. Wow, that's a high number because that starts at 000. They were kicking butt that day. And we've got our Gibson branded Kluson Deluxe tuners. Of course, let's do a blacklight test real quick. Everything's looking good on the headstock of this one. No clip-on tuner residue or anything like that. Our body's looking nice and clean. The trem bar arm is glowing as they usually do. I would say everything's looking good there. Moving on to the back, it's even for the most part. You can see some slightly more glowing area by the strap button. That means somebody probably left a strap on this and it kind of slightly affected it. You can kind of see that a little bit on the bottom too. But moving up the back of the neck here, you can indeed see, okay, we had some sort of like a stand, leave some marks. Thankfully you can't see that in regular lighting situations, but that is there. But our neck is looking perfect in the typical brake areas. Nothing negative to report on this one. All said and done, this one weighs a little over 7.5 pounds at 7 pounds 9.4 ounces. Let's go ahead, plug it in, and get some Angus Young AC/DC on. Alright, so as far as the clean tones go, kind of an interesting one. I actually had to dial this neck pickup way back into the guitar, otherwise it was just completely stealing the show. And normally that pickup would be in the bridge, so it would make complete sense why you would want the Angus Young signature pickup in there. But yeah, we've got it in the neck for this one, so it sounds kind of like that. Which is kind of a moral dilemma. Do you break the originality of this one, which I suspect it to be, to get that in the bridge, or do you just leave it alone? I guess it depends if you're a collector or more of a player. Obviously the 57 Classic in the bridge, I mean, they make 57 Classic equipped bridged pickup guitars. I mean, nowadays they have the 57 Plus they typically use, but that sounds good. But then the combination of it sounds like this. How well does the trem do? Does okay if you're just doing it as a little shimmer thing, but if you try to go too hard, stays in tune better than most. Sometimes it just comes with age on these things. Now let's go ahead and kick on a little bit of dirt. would say that sounds pretty close to AC/DC. But before we go, I really want to show you what this neck pickup is capable of. Like if you put it to a normal height, I'd say that's a bit more normal for a neck pickup. Listen to how much more powerful it is. So this is the bridge. Neck. Now you guys realize why I had to put that way down. So, I mean, just imagine that in the bridge, and you can just tell that's probably the true magic behind these Angus Young SGs, is it comes down to having his signature pickup in here, which isn't really a pickup you can buy much anymore. In fact, I didn't even realize they had a signature Angus Young pickup. So what are my final thoughts on this instrument now that we've learned all about it? It looks fantastic, all cleaned up here. I'm still not a big fan of these vibrola units, but this one's extra cool because of the lightning bolts and Angus's name engraved into there. It's cool that you have the Devil Child on the headstock, but I can see a lot of people not liking this because of that. But that's just kind of what Gibson was doing in that 2000s era. There's a lot of slash standards that have his Scully on the face of the headstock. So you can bet your butt we're probably going to see another Angus Young signature SG get released by Gibson USA at some point in time within the next couple of years. But you're probably going to have the return of the Demon Child on the back side of the headstock. So these early 2000s ones are kind of future-proofed in that aspect. But I found this neck very comfortable. Nice and rounded, kind of like what we were talking about on the workbench. And a lot of times I don't like SG necks because they're a little bit too wide feeling. This one's just perfect in that aspect. But still slim. I mean, it's rounded, but slim. So troglodytes, I hope you enjoyed taking a look at this guitar with me. Finally, it took us 2 of them, but I got it reviewed. But I'm glad I waited to document a clean one today, despite the pickups being kind of strange. All right, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and we will catch you guys tomorrow on the next episode. Take care.